I want to just say welcome to Interfaith Spiritual Center. I want to also welcome our viewing audience. And it's amazing, since we've had these Sunday programs on Facebook and on the internet, that I went like from 800 friends to almost 4,000 in the period of a month's time. And thank you. And people are getting tremendous value out of a message that is life-giving, self-affirming, because each and every one of us is created in the image and likeness of God, and we know that it is good, and it is what? Very good. Very good. It's just not a little bit good, or somewhat good, or depending on what day it is. I am created in the image and likeness of God, and it is good and very good. And when we get that at a deep spiritual level, we unfold into life, into our calling. We begin to listen to the still small voice within us, that voice of God, the voice of intuition that leads us into the paths of right thinking, that allows us to know that each and every one of us moves through the shadow of doubt. That on the other side of that is the knowingness that we are created in the image and likeness of something so powerful flowing through us as we tap into it. Now, my wonderful friend, Bob Trask, who wrote this great book, and the book is called Romancing the Soul. In fact, he wrote to me on Facebook, and he said he was just so pleased and very moved that I was taking this month to acknowledge him. And in Romancing the Soul, he has about the secret of wealth. And for him, the secret of wealth is about joy. He quotes Teilhard de Chardin with, "Joy is the most infallible sign of the presence of God," which is one of my favorite quotes. If we love what we do and do what we love, the energy of the universe opens up to us. When we acknowledge this day in whom live and move and have our being, that when I put joy into the energy of whatever I'm doing, people feel it. People want more of what we have. And yesterday I had the opportunity to gift myself, which I rarely do. I did a workshop. It started at 8:30 in the morning, went to 5:30 in the afternoon, and it was about midlife. But it was about the sacred story. And Jonathan Young, who is the curator of the Joseph Campbell Library, and I actually hosted him in San Diego over 18 years ago, was giving the whole morning talk. And what was so interesting is that I know today is Mother's Day. And I was going through a wonderful book by Clarissa Pinkola Estes entitled Women Who Run with the Wolves, about myths and legends. And I came across the story of the ugly duckling. And there is only one mind in the universe present to all of us. And his whole morning was dedicated to that legend, that story that Hans Christian Andersen shared so impeccably. And that it's about finding, for me, our soul community. That many of us, and I know some of you, and God bless you, had wonderful, wonderful childhoods and fabulous parents. Our 86-year-old young Alice told me she loved her mother and her father were fabulous. Others of us had other initiations. We chose the initiatory path. Of course, it's so interesting. You grow up that way, then you get to deal with all the other dysfunction in the world, and you get to adjust to that. But the great thing about our way of life is that we are learning and growing and expanding through each experience. And the great ugly duckling story where the mother notices that the other egg isn't exactly like the others. And someone says, well, it's probably a turkey egg, they can't swim. Putting all the little doubts. And she says, well, I've been sitting a very long time, and he's just taking a little bit longer to hatch. And some of us we're late bloomers. We take a little bit longer to unfold, to find the energy that works for us. And finally, when he is hatched, he doesn't look like anybody, and he's ostracized, and he's criticized, and the other barnyard animals make fun of him. And he does not feel good about himself. And finally, his mother, who was defending him, begins to give up on him herself. So he runs out into the swampland. We've done that. We go into a place of the subconscious. We began to find the energies within us. Some of us almost freeze in the pond. And then that wonderful caregiving archetype comes by and lifts us out of the pond, as the farmer did for the ugly duckling. And his story goes on, and I love my very favorite part of the story is where he hears a sound in the sky. And he calls out to them not even recognizing that voice within him, that sound within him that cries out to these beautiful beings of white feathers in the sky. A longing, a knowingness. And as you know, I feel that we evolve into the beings that we are. I am very grateful for my fundamentalist upbringing. I am very grateful that I had a minister at 5 years old who loved me. I am very grateful for the energies of the people in that ministry who could, I was sort of waif-like, and my parents had other priorities, and going to church was not one of them. But a neighbor, a good neighbor, just like the farmer, who took the little duckling out of the water. And she took me with her wherever she went, every Sunday. So I had the experience of creating what I needed through the surrogate mother. And what we know is that when we are crying out for the energies of our soul community, of finding our pack, our niche, where we fit, we go through many, many experiences to do that. And every once in a while, what I noted in the story is that he cried out to them. They wanted him to come with them, but he didn't. He hesitated. He didn't feel worthy or deserving of leaving that situation at that moment. He had to evolve into that. We evolve and unfold and expand into the people, places, and things that are going to serve us when we feel, I'm home. I am absolutely home. This feels so good to be home. Now, I love what Phyllis Diller said. She said, I've given my children everything that I didn't have as a child, everything I couldn't afford, and now I'm going to move in with them. So, there's sometimes an ulterior motive to what we do. But when I think about Phyllis Diller and her life story, if you've read her biography, everyone made fun of her because they thought she was the ugly duckling. And when she grew and wanted to have plastic surgery, she said, I want to know what it feels like to be beautiful on the outside as well as on the inside. And I thought, what a profound statement. That I feel beautiful within, but I want that to match the outer. And what we know on the very deep level is that when people are truly beautiful and expressing their Christ light and energy, the Buddha nature, they are beautiful no matter what they look like. Oprah had a woman on the show, and she had a disease where a tumor grew out of her face, and there was a play, and many of you may have seen the play or the film Elephant Man, kind of thing. And she went through her whole life, and her parents made her go everywhere, and she was spat at, and she was made fun of. And then a plastic surgeon saw her and said, I want to help you. And he got a team together to go in and remove all this tumor from her face. Her face is still disfigured, but not like it was. And she had the doctor on the show, and he said, I could see her inner beauty. I wanted the outer to match the inner, to grow up with that kind of infirmity. And on this Mother's Day, where we acknowledge the sacredness of the Earth Mother, and the opportunity that we have to express that light and that energy, that no matter what our initiatory experiences were, we can hear the cry, and at times we look up and we just, we don't have enough motivation to go where we need to go until finally we've been through it all. The ugly duckling went through it all. He went energetically through it all, almost died, and wished he would die. And then he suddenly saw one day, as winter gave way to spring, he saw the most beautiful creatures he had ever seen. And he swam over thinking that they were probably going to attack him or maybe kill him, but it was worth it. And he swam over. And they swam toward him. And he put his head down, thinking, they're going to probably just peck me to death. And they preened him, and they acknowledged him. And a child's voice in the distance said, oh, look, the most beautiful swan in the lake, a new one. And began throwing breadcrumbs and cake crumbs and wonderful energy toward it. And that he looked down and saw his